This is the video for lesson number 1, creating box plots. Lesson objective. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to create a box plot to represent a set of data values. You will determine the 5-number summary and use these values to create the box plot. Box plots. This is a graph that provides a picture of the data ordered and divided into 4 intervals that each contains approximately 25% of the data. Sometimes it's also called a box and whisker plot. So if you take a look at this example that is on the screen, it's not on your worksheet, we can see that the box plot has created 4 intervals. Here's one, here's the second one, the third, and the fourth. So a box plot really has 4 sections. In each section or interval, it contains 25% of the data. So that means no matter how long this whisker is over here, it contains 25% of the data. So it is this section and every section in a box plot. And we're going to see how to break up our data into these 4 sections so that way each section contains the same amount of data. We will see why in some box plots the whiskers are shorter or longer, or why the box in the middle sometimes is also more compressed or shorter, and sometimes it's a little bit more elongated. Let's learn some key terminology. A box plot displays the data distribution based on a 5-number summary. So what we are going to do today is learn how to find the 5-number summary. You may recall some of these vocabulary terms. So the first one is the smallest number in the set of data. The smallest number is always going to be your minimum. And when you look at a box plot, it's always going to be this line all the way to the left. So that is the minimum. The next term I want to take a look at is the median. The median will always be the line that's in the middle of your box. So here, the median goes on this line. It is the middle value of the entire set of data. The next one is the highest number in the set of data, and that is called our maximum. It will always be this line all the way at the end, all the way to the right. That is your maximum value, your highest value. Now the other 2 terms, let's see. It says the median, or the middle of the first half of the data. Sometimes we call this the lower quartile, and in our graph or our box plot, it's always going to be the first line of the box. So this is really the median of the lower half of our data. And this is called the first quartile. Today we're also going to use Q1 with the little 1 to abbreviate the first quartile, or sometimes we call it the lower quartile. The last term in our 5-number summary is the median of the second half of the data. It's sometimes referred to as the upper quartile. We will also call it Q3 or the third quartile. So in our box plot, we will always see it by the line that makes the end of the box part of the graph. So this is called the third quartile. And we will abbreviate it as Q3. So you might be wondering where Q2 is, and that's the median. However, we're going to stick to calling that the median. So our 5-number summary that we are going to practice finding with our data sets today will be our minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. Each of these values can be seen in your box plot. Here's the minimum. Q1 is the first line that forms the box. The median is the line that's somewhere inside the box. Q3 is the right side of the box. And your maximum is always your highest mark all the way to the right, the last part or the farthest part of the whisker. Okay, and everything is summed up nicely here for you at the bottom of your worksheet. So let's practice finding our 5-number summary. Construct a box plot for each example. So number 1. This represents pre-algebra assessment test scores in an algebra class of 15 students. Here's how we're going to find the 5-number summary. So as you can see, all of our data values are in order from least to greatest. You must always make sure that that is true before you find the 5-number summary. So what I'm going to do on the left-hand side is set up those 5 numbers that I need to find. Remember, it's the minimum, Q1, the median, Q3, and the maximum. So if you look at your data set, I think it's easiest to come up with the minimum and the maximum first. Our minimum is here, and our maximum is our highest value. So let's record those to the side. Our minimum is 20. The lowest score was a 20. And the highest score, or the maximum, was a 70. Next, we like to find the median of the entire data set. So always do it in this order: minimum, maximum, and now the median. When I try to find the median, I like to go like this. I need to find the number that is right in the middle of my data set. So I like to cross out the numbers or just underline them so they don't disappear on either end. So 1, 1, 2, 2. And I'm going to keep doing this, alternating side to side, until I see the number that falls in the middle of the data set. Please make sure you do this as well. Here we go. 30 is the median of our data set. It's the only number in the middle, so that is our median. And I will record it over here. Now that 30 is our median, we are going to work with the rest of the numbers all the way to the lower half, or to the left, and we are going to find the median of these numbers. This will be the first quartile. So we will do the same thing going from left to right. 1, 1, 2, 2. Keep going until you find the number in the middle. And here it is, 26. So 26 is our first quartile. It is the median of the lower half of data. Let's do it for the right-hand side. All the numbers to the right of our regular median. And now we will find the middle of this data set. Go from side to side. So 35 is our upper quartile, or the third quartile. Now that we have our 5-number summary, we are going to create our box plot. So we have our number line. I like to mark the numbers in the same way that I found them. So here's our median, here's our minimum. Here's our maximum. Make sure you're not touching your number line. Your box plot always needs to be raised above. Then the median is 30. Q1 is 26. Q3 is 35. Now the 3 lines in the middle you can connect to make your box plot. And then these are your whiskers. So this is how you make a box plot. Notice we have 4 sections in our box plot. One here, that's the whisker, the first part of the box, the second, and then the third. Notice that the third part has a very long whisker. Now it doesn't mean that there are any more numbers in this data set, because remember, we took half the data set, the upper half, which is the same thing we did for down here. It's just a longer whisker, because notice the spread of the numbers is much longer. We go from 32 all the way up to a 70. So the data is very spread apart. As compared to the lower half, we go from a 20 to a 30. So the whisker over here is shorter, it's more condensed. So a longer whisker just means that the numbers are more spread out. If you look down below at the dot plot, you can see that most of the data lies over here on the left, which is why the box is mostly towards the left-hand side, and we get that long whisker because of these two data values that are at the end over here. Let's try number 2. So now we have the midterm test scores in algebra in an algebra class of 12 students. We need to make a box plot, which means we need our 5-number summary. We need our minimum, Q1, the median, Q3, and the maximum. Let's identify the minimum and maximum first. I see that the lowest score is a 67. And my maximum, the highest score, is an 83. Remember that we're going to find the median next of the entire data set, so let's go from side to side until we reach the middle. Ooh. Notice this time there is no number that's directly in the middle. However, that middle number would be right here. So, you need to think about what number would be in the middle of 75 and 75. Well, in this case, it's just going to be 75. And that is our median. Now that we were able to split the data right down the middle, and there was no one single value in the middle, when we are going to find Q1, or our lower quartile, we are going to use all of the numbers to the left of that mark that we just made. Now let's find the middle of these values. Go from side to side until you've reached the middle. And again, we can see that our middle value would be right here. Since it's in the middle of 72 and 72, then 72 will be Q1. And let's go to the upper half of data values, all of these ones, and find our middle value here, our upper quartile. And again, our middle would be right here, in between 78 and 78. Well, the middle of that is just going to be 78. And there's Q3. Now that we have our 5-number summary, we can make our box plot. So, notice this time the numbers are not here, but what we are going to do is use the same scale as down below, lining it up as accurate as you can. I'm just going to mark every 10 as close to the bottom scale as you can, because you always need to create your scale before you can create any sort of graph. Once you've done that, you're ready to mark your 5 values and create your box plot. Okay, so just like before, I like to start with my minimum and maximum. The minimum is 67, that would be about here, and the maximum is 83. The median is 75, Q1 is 72, and Q3 is 78. The 3 lines in the middle will form your box, and the rest are whiskers. Again, let's compare our box plot to our dot plot. Notice the data is pretty evenly spread out. This graph is symmetric, so our box plot looks pretty even. The whiskers look like they're the same length, and so do our 2 sections in the middle. This means that the data is spread out pretty evenly. So this is how you make a box plot. Now I'd like you to turn to the back and try number 3. This is now the final exam in algebra class of 12 students. So I'd like you to pause the video, remember the steps for finding your 5-number summary, make your scale on your graph, and create your box plot. Please pause the video at this time. At this time, your box plot should be done, so please do not go ahead until you finish number 3, the you try. Here's the correct answer. My 5-number summary is over here. Notice this time when you found your middle of the lower half, 79 is in the middle of 78 and 80. And similar to over here, 86 is in the middle of 85 and 87. Your box plot should look like this, where the whisker's a little bit longer on the left. Notice that's because the data is more spread out over here on the left-hand side. This left part of the box is a little bit longer than the right side of the part of the box because the data is very condensed over here. There's not much of a spread of values. And a short whisker over here on the end. Please come in tomorrow knowing how to make a box plot. We will start off the class with the Do Now, where you will make a box plot on your own. Thank you.